So how do you see cloud computing as an example, kind of breaking down those traditional silos in your organizations and changing people's career path? Or forcing them to change their path?
Or forcing them out. I mean, I would say that, I think hit the point. The field we're in is constantly changing. So cloud is disrupting a bunch of things. To be honest, a lot of the technologies with Hadoop and big data has done a similar kind of thing. I mean, the way you looked at BI historically has fundamentally changed. And frankly, a lot of the skills that you used to have, if you have a major migration over, so I mean, today it's cloud. I mean, frankly, 5 years from now, it's going to be something else, right? And so I think one is you have to be very versatile. You have to be adaptable. But more importantly, I think, I think one of the challenges a lot of individuals have is they assess their own skills, have a point of view, and then if they're not successful with those skills, they either think the organization is poor, or and really it doesn't matter what you think about your own skills. It's what others think about your skills. So that's why the environment's important, and that plays into disruptive technologies, because when you are morphing from one set of skills, you shouldn't be making fundamental shifts, right? I mean, if you're building a career over 20, 30, 40 years, and you have a lot of disconnected parts without any kind of core linkage, besides the fact that they all happen to be in tech, then you're going to end up in a situation where you're sort of a jack of all trades and a master of none. And that becomes a very difficult, you can be versatile, you'll probably always be employed in one regard, but you're not going to advance, right? Because you really haven't picked something. And so I think it's important to know what you're good at. It's important to know if others around you agree. If you're in an organization where they don't think you're really good at something and you seem to be constantly hitting a brick wall, then either you have to relook at yourself and say, am I really as good as I think I am? Or I need to go to an organization where I'm one of the strongest people that's playing in the space. And I think your strategies also have to be different. When you are early in your career, you want to be really, you're very heavily in the learning mode. And so being the best guy on the block is probably not the best strategy, because all of a sudden 5-10 years go by pretty quickly, and next thing you know, you go to a real strong firm and you're not the best guy on the block and you're struggling. So you have to almost, I think of your career in stages. And so whether it's cloud, I mean, I know maybe I didn't even answer your question directly, but almost to me it doesn't matter, because I mean, when we were starting out, it was sort of the internet, right? And you have the whole .com boom, and so and if you take Moore's law, you're going to it's going to advance. The rate of change of innovation is going to cut by half during that whole formula. So it's going to get more rapid. I mean, your cycles are whether it was mobile or something, it's going to always be something else.
So the question regarding cloud computing, right? What I see is the impact is felt across different layers in which the service is provided. So depending upon what you mean by cloud, if you're talking about platform as a service, software as a service, infrastructure as a service, anytime you start thinking about or view a particular type of activity as something that can be commoditized, it's a very high likelihood that that service can be done cheaply, more efficiently by somebody else. And that's how organizations, or I would say at the management layer, when you start looking at, because I'll tell you one thing, when I speak to the CIOs, and it took me some time to actually grasp this myself, because being a technologist and having grown in that career path, speaking to these guys, you start looking at numbers, right? Everything starts distilling down to numbers and how it makes or doesn't make financial sense. So when you think about technology, yes, but you have to ask yourself the fundamental question, why is this technology successful? What's driving it? How are consumers leveraging it? So if you think about cloud, what it allows you is rapid agility in how you set up your infrastructure, right? The ability to build a server, bring it down, a development team working on it, rapidly bringing it down again. So you look at that life cycle and you say, okay, who's actually building this out? Traditionally, it used to be system administrators, right? That activity no longer needs to exist. that can be moved to a cloud provider, right? So that's impact one immediately for that particular team. Then you go up the food chain to see who else is actually impacted here. So if you're on the top of the house of that food chain trying to add value into the build out, then you can say, I'm providing still a service that cannot be replicated, right? So that's how you start. I mean, that's one way of looking at it. But I think typically, if you understand your business, you understand your company, you ask yourself, do I really know how my company generates revenue? What are the streams? How is this activity done? And the work that I'm doing, is that actually aligned to generating revenue, or is that viewed as a cost center? Right? It starts making a huge difference in your perspective and how you react to change as well.
So I recently completed a transformation moving to the cloud. So it usually starts off with technology, but what organizations start to recognize is it is transforming the entire organization. The staffing model starts to evolve and change. All low-skill jobs, when I say low skills, skills that can be replicated across the world, start to move towards countries where the cost and labor is cheap. And the skills that are high-skilled and low in availability start to reside within the organization. And there are new skills and new roles that start getting created. One very good role is vendor management. As the brother said here, the boundaries between managing vendors starts to become closer and closer, and they in essence start to become partners. How do you go about managing vendors, ensuring that your company's brand still exists? The third point is, as the IT staffing model changes, many of the jobs move from permanent to contract. If you're a highly skilled technical individual, then that job can get replicated in other areas because of the cloud. And on the high skilled areas, there's new jobs that are getting created is where you should seek opportunities and determine whether that's where you have a passion and you would like to invest your time in the new roles that are getting created.
So before we go to the next person here, let me just see a show of hands. How many people have questions so we can then... All right, so rather than, I think we got good response here, right? Kashi,
I just wanted to make a comment. Hamad is my neighbor. I thought he would ask a simple question, but...
Did you pay him to ask the question?
If I was there, I can't ask a simple question.
You know him well.